Hey guys, it's Buddha Gem, and very often when we're talking about voting, people fall into this dichotomous type thinking where, especially if you're talking about someone who's really passionate about voting and you're maybe trying to explain to them why it's a very ineffective tactic, they'll immediately label you as apathetic. You either vote or you don't vote. It's this either or mentality. And particularly in politics, dichotomies just don't exist. They're not just, it's ridiculous. It's not you either vote or you're involved in Occupy Wall Street. You could be doing a million different things to make this a better world. Joining a social justice campaign, maybe joining or forming a union, food co-op in your neighborhood. The list is really only limited by our imaginations. Occupy Wall Street, definitely one. Even that, then what are you going to do in Occupy Wall Street? You could be part of any number of different working groups within the movement. Really, there's no dichotomy here. I've been, told by Punk Patriot that I create a false dichotomy because he sees when I'm talking about what an ineffective strategy voting is, people like the Punk Patriot see it as me saying, you can either be involved in Occupy Wall Street or you can vote. You can't do both. And there's a really, well-known saying within activist circles, 1 foot in the voting booth, 1 foot in the street. It's certainly possible to vote and be active in Occupy Wall Street. I'm not creating a false dichotomy. What I am doing, as part of the 99%, I can confidently say that most of us have very limited time and resources to devote to making this a better world. This is a very unstable, scary system that we live in, and it's very hard to survive in it. Those of us who are lucky enough to have a job are working more hours than ever trying to survive. Those of us who don't have a job are struggling in different ways to try to survive in this economy. And the amount of time and resources and energy we can devote beyond their survival is very limited. And so the question isn't, do you vote or do you, get active in Occupy Wall Street or something else? It's a question of what is the most effective way that I can use my limited resources to make this a better world. And I would say voting is probably one of our least effective tactics. And so it's not an either or, but to be serious, I think very often people, when they talk about voting, it's almost like they're just talking about the physical act of going down and punching that ballot, which very limited amount of time. But if anyone is going to be serious about voting, particularly if you're talking about third-party stuff, where there's a tremendous amount of time and energy needs to be spent getting candidates and getting them on the ballot. And every state's different. The rules are different. You've got to research. We're talking a lot of time and energy for not a lot of. You don't get a lot in return. It's a very limited return on investment there. And even if you get your guy in, like say Obama, take Obama for instance, a lot of folks who, Labor's a good example. Labor lavished millions on his campaign in the hopes that he would pass EFCA, the Employee Free Choice Act. Didn't happen, and this is part of the thing you've got to start thinking about with representative democracy. It's such a sham because you could spend all that time and energy and resources that we have as part of the 99%, which isn't a whole lot. Labor is always outspent by the Fortune 500 corporations. You do all that and you get your candidate into office, right? And then they don't do what you wanted them to do. Now what do? You wait 4 years and then try it again? And it's not a very good strategy. It's not a very effective strategy. And history's shown that it hasn't worked too well. So again, it's not an either or. But for it's really a personal thing, I guess. But at some level, you have to think, how can I be most effective? And right now, I think for my time and energy, it's best spent within Occupy Wall Street. So the real question you have to ask yourself is, where are my limited resources best put? And my opinion, Occupy Wall Street is where it's at. Longtime activists that I know, we're still pinching ourselves that this is even real. It is an amazing movement. This is an amazing time. And I can't encourage you enough to get involved in your local Occupy community. Be a part of it. Experience direct democracy. Take part in direct actions that lead to real results here and now that are tangible and mean something to you, to me, to all of us. Occupy with your heart. Occupy with your mind. Join the movement.
Who's part? Who's part? Who's part?